Welcome and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for attending the webinar tonight about negotiating short sales and what you need to know. So, allow me to introduce our guest speaker for tonight. She had done hundreds of short sales at ATG, attorneys title company, and wrote the legal CE for member attorneys to inform them about how to vet their clients' properties for viability. That way, they were better informed as legal counsel during the process as they work as a team. So she also had negotiated debt settlements between Illinois properties and national international banks. And she also serves as the Pro Standards Committee for Multi-Board and CAR for chairman of mediation and arbitrations for 20 years. So friends, allow me to introduce our guest speaker for tonight. Betsy Green. Betsy, the floor is yours. Would you want me to share make you as presenter to share your screen by any chance?
Sure. I only have 2 slides, but thanks for that great intro, Phil. I appreciate it, and I'm really glad to be here. And I love the work that Chicago DealVault is doing, and just such an impact in this area for all types of investing. And I hope everyone realizes you're making a big difference to a lot of people, and it's a good thing. In the meantime, welcome everybody, and so glad that you're here. I am curious if you could put in the chat what your objectives are and whether you're going to be doing short sales or whether you just want to understand the process, and whether you're already involved with that kind of thing. So firstly, what I wanted to talk about was banking, because that's basically what this is all about. The more we all understand about banking and money and the money supply, then it makes things a little bit easier. So I've done a lot of short sales with good conscience, just because it's just how things work. And also, it makes me a better negotiator when I'm dealing with banks. And as an investor myself, I don't have the time or the aptitude to be doing short sales. I mean, it takes a special person. It's a lot of follow-up and a lot of organization. So it was a good experience, but as for an investor, you just can't do everything. It's so difficult. So we've got, thanks for all your responses. It helps me guide, how we're going to have this discussion. But certainly, there's resources where you can go to someone who's going to do that short sale for you. And we're just going to talk about the kind of tools that you need. So one thing that is really important is to understand just the money supply in certainly this nation. And, some of it might touch globally. But as for the Federal Reserve, that's where all the banking money comes from. Most of that money comes from taxpayers. So there's a chart, you can Google it. 47.9% of that money is coming from individual income taxes, and payroll taxes comprises another 35%. So that's the lion's share. And there's some other things that the Federal Reserve brings in for money. But the whole point of banking is to keep liquidity, as far as stability and to have home ownership. It's better for communities. Everybody knows that. And, there's certain buildings you don't want to, buy a condo in because it's all renters. People aren't going to have the same kind of care. So that's one thing about banking. So when you're negotiating or when you're thinking the numbers in your investment, realize that the bank on the other side, that's not their money. So sometimes they'll hold out, and if you just keep going back again and again, then you might have success. So I think one of the most important things to understand too is that the beginning of any transaction, certainly any short sale, is going to be the foundation, and that's what your success is going to rest on. So to vet a short sale is highly important. And as we talk about this, feel free to put a question in the chat. I can see it. And when it comes down to your selecting the properties or you're determining whether this could be a good short sale or not, those vetting issues become very important. One is the value of the house. And if you're good at numbers, you're good at the research and to look at an area. If you get into a lot of different areas, then it means a lot of different, time of yours is going to be spread pretty thin. So to target an area helps. It's not always the easiest thing if you don't have an area which might be heavy on short sales and heavy on properties that are really going to be of value to you once you acquire them. So know values and also know communities and what kind of type of housing in those communities is going to be the highest and best interest for you as an investor. So if we're talking value, we're talking condition, and most banks do not want to see that property ever get vacated. It's the quickest way to destroy the asset. And once that asset's destroyed, there's no sale and there's no investment and no anything else. So that's one thing I talk to sellers about, what their exit plan is, where they're going to go. Do they have some other setup? Because you want to make sure that they understand how long this process is. And if somebody is a candidate for a short sale, that's going to be in their best interest. But it just happens. I think it's happening a little bit less now compared to '08, but still, you've got a lot of people who are in financial disrepair just because of this COVID and what's happened to us for the past year and a half. So when there's more owed on the mortgage than what the home value is, that property could end up going to auction, or it could be a short sale that someone is going to perform. And know those numbers really well too. Also know your time frames, because a Liz Pendon's notice, I think they begin it after 2 months and then it gets published after 4. So that's really a good time frame to think of. Catch people at the default or before their first default, because if time goes on too long, the bank's going to have too much into it and they're really not going to want to cut it less, and they're heading toward auction. And the auction isn't the best thing for banks unless it's a particular highly demanded area, higher end short sales, higher end condo building, that kind of thing. Then they might do well at auction, or an interesting property. But for the most part, these 200 to $400,000 houses are not going to do well at auction. And I've been to auctions, and most of the people that attend them, they don't bid. They're just collecting research, and I think they're going to find another way, perhaps to contact the bank directly to take the property up like that. So if no one's bidding, that would drive the value down considerably. And there are some properties that do get a lot of bidding going on. So at any given day, any given week throughout the city, you're going to have, they go in a circuit downtown from one auction to the next. And it's small, in a small office. And you could have 2 or 3 a day. So it's a lot. So we talked about that. And then the amount of the debt compared to the value. If it is way extreme, like there might be 300,000 in debt and the value in your best estimation is like a third, those are getting into real dangerous territories. So you'd want to see something a little closer where the value's in the neighborhood of the debt amount, and you have a chance at doing something in order to get a bank to agree to a short sale, because you'd be the best shot for them to liquidate the asset. And again, since you're dealing with negotiators, or we're dealing with negotiators, it's not their money. So for the most part, someone's very convincing. There's a lot of different tactics that we use while negotiating, and it's a way to get things done. So once the short sale process begins, you're going to want to seek a total release. And this is why I like to work alongside attorneys. And I can't say that we don't know some legal terms, but it's going to be important that that letter is written where there's no way around it. Because if you're doing a short sale for someone, the best thing you can do is try and get that full release on the property, or on the note and the mortgage once they give up the home. And it's good for someone, to discuss that exit plan, so they're there to continue and take care of the house, maintain the house, and keep everything safe. That's the quickest way to destroy a short sale. Somebody moves out, and it's really hard to sell vacated properties anyway. The other thing is vandalism, that kind of thing. Some neighborhoods, they're going to be really vulnerable to that. And if it gets destroyed or someone decides to take the assets, I mean, the appliances, anything that's attached should remain in the house. And if I am talking to a home seller and they're getting an idea like that, I do everything to discourage them. It's like, please don't take those appliances out of there. It's going to be a problem, because if the buyer is going to be a homeowner and it would be their primary residence, not an investor, they're not going to get a mortgage for it unless they can have an occupancy clearance, which would mean everything's intact, and no appraiser is going to appraise it if everything's not intact. Now, if it's an investor, and here's where you guys come in, you really serve a purpose here, because most people aren't in a position to take a property that isn't going to pass an occupancy certification in order for a lender and an appraiser to approve the loan. So you can pay cash, you can do it a different way, but it's like, it's really important to have middlemen like investors to get this, off the books and move it on to someone else or rent it, whatever needs to happen. So somebody asked about negotiation tactics. If I'm really at the end of the wire, I bring up bankruptcy. And again, it's if it's dishonest, it's not something you really want to do, but it's possible someone would be considering bankruptcy, and then it just kind of kills the short sale right then and there. So if you're in a negotiation, that could help motivate the lender to consider that. And you're dealing with loss mitigators. I mean, they do this all day long. They're not happy people. They're kind of gremlins, actually, but we just have to get through. And there's one other thing that I do, especially if I think there's a condition issue, or if I know that the homeowner left the property, then it becomes important to mention that. And once these people hear about condition issues, a lot of times they'll move a little faster, but it just depends on what that is. It could be an area where people are breaking into vacant homes, that kind of stuff. So those kind of things help a little. And if I think of a few more that I've used, I will come back to that. So setting up the process, like I said, you definitely want to know what the exit plan is for that homeowner. And then I look at people's mortgage statements, not the statement, the entire mortgage itself, because I want to know what happened when, everything else. Not everybody wants to go around reading mortgages, so do it if you care to. But it's important that they know too, is there one mortgage? Is there more than one? Are there three? Are there five? Doesn't mean you can't do it. I did one with 6 liens, and that's when you need a short sale negotiator who's very aggressive, and everybody's taken a big haircut on that. So I think I threw everybody maybe $1,000, and the last one, 500. I said take it or leave it, but you can't have one lien just holding up the show. But that would have been the smallest junior lien, so they really got dogged. And also, you're going to know someone's finances to a degree. You don't want to know everything, but if somebody has a lot of liquid assets, cash on hand, they don't fool around with too many other assets, it could be an issue. And throughout this process, if it takes a long time, the bank will continue to ask for those bank statements as it goes on. Somebody asked, when is the best time to contact the seller after lis pendens? ASAP. I wouldn't mind contacting them before lis pendens. I don't know if you'd have any other way of noticing a default or anything like that. And unfortunately, I didn't agree with this for the most part, but a lot of banks, when you're starting to talk to them, if there hasn't been a default, they might say it's almost imminent, they've got to default. So I get it, it's how it goes. But I was dealing with a lot of people who had not defaulted yet, and they were either heading that way or planning to do that. So it's a mix of everything. I always say the sooner the better, because you're first in the door and you've got, you're bringing something to the table. Then of course, anyone would want to listen to you and get planning right away. So it's going to be important to be convincing and be really straight and honest with everything you're sharing with the homeowner. There's probably all kinds of laws about that. There was at one point, I think, called Mars, and that's another thing too. I highly recommend you know municipal ordinances for that area, rules, laws, and also whatever's going on with lending and current foreclosure and short sale laws. Somebody asked what banks I talked to. I think almost any bank you could think of. Some were foreign. You've got a lot of people in Mumbai that are handling these things. You're just going to run into so much, and some of them have just a process that doesn't make any sense, and it's hard to deal with, but you don't get to pick. So it's a good question sometimes to look at the mortgage and to say, to know what bank you're dealing with, and then to also make sure whether there's junior liens or any IRS liens, because all that it needs to be handled. Same thing with credit card. If you run up a credit card high enough, that could become a lien on a home. So it's out there. It needs to be managed, and you need to know about it up front. And let's see, he's talking about not vacating and default buyer. And then occasionally you can buy personal property from a homeowner. I've had to do that once when I was purchasing short sales, and it was, I think, a couch, but just for them to have $500, there just wasn't any other way to work it out. So if you do anything like that, you want that to be on the closing disclosure with the title company, or certainly go through an attorney about it too. And occasionally a lender might offer them a relocation fee or relocation payment, such as maybe $1,000, $2,000. It just depends if somebody is really just broke and, can't even, get into an apartment. So it's out there. Let's see. Oh, then you're going to want to know about public information on that property, the property taxes, and then help out to get the closing costs. And that would best source for that would be the title company or an attorney, and know what is involved with the BPO process. So if you're doing these short sales yourself, which I am guessing so far that's not the audience here, there's certain things you're going to want to have set up in your office. One would be printer, scanner, and then there's the list of documents, and we can go over that. I think Dean may have joined us, and I'll just finish up real quickly. When it comes to bills that aren't paid, there are municipal bills, water and sanitary and HOA and assessments and that kind of thing. You're not going to be able to get out of a condo building usually unless those assessments are paid, and banks can, or certainly the association, banks will probably demand that the 6 months go on to the closing disclosure, and the buyer would pick that up. So that's what you're getting into if you're working with a HOA or a condo building. And tax liens, that could happen too. They're first in line, and it's got to be addressed. And you want to know the assessor as well as the treasurer for your county, wherever you're working in, and you can get those PINs and make sure you've got the name of the homeowner. And this is another reason that I look at mortgage documents, because you're not going to have access to the deed. The bank will have the deed, and you just have to be certain that you're talking to the homeowner. And you'd be surprised how many times someone's not talking to the homeowner and it's someone else, and it's not a pretty situation. And then once they do that title search, that's another way too. They run the title search and see if there's any liens that got through that are old, like when the seller bought the house. It happens, and that's got to be handled, and it just takes up more time. And then we'll also have the legal description, pay close attention to that and the size of the lot, et cetera, and what exactly is your purchasing. And then when it comes to the follow-up, it really should be 1 or 2 times a week. That is the short sale negotiator with the lender, and that is more in the beginning just to make sure all the documentation is in, and to also follow up consistently after that every 2 weeks. And they can be done quickly, and it just depends on a lot of different situations, but it's really important to vet that short sale and see if it's viable before you get going. There's a lot of questions you can ask the seller, and Dean and I are here to help out with those kind of questions as well. So anybody have any questions at this point? And please feel free to put comments in the chat. Oh, I would just Google me. I am at Coldwell Banker, and my cell phone's probably all over the internet, but it's 773-418-5361. Yeah, there's no problem if anyone wants to unmute and ask a question that way too. That works. Oh, thanks, Phil. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Betsy. David Myers. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi, David.
Hey, I put in the chat. I noticed on Zillow there are pre-foreclosures. How do the pre-foreclosures get on Zillow, and what's the purpose of them? Because sometimes when I talk to homeowners, they have no idea.
Oh my gosh. So you've made some calls to those homeowners and they couldn't explain how they got on there?
No, they had no idea. So I talk to several of them quite often, and I just, I'm just extending the olive branch, just trying to see how can I help them.
Okay.
Whether list the property, I'm a licensed broker, or wholesale the property. But of course, I don't throw it in their face. After I build some type of relationship, talking with them, then I bring it up.
Right.
They have no idea. So how do they get on there? Because even if you go to Zillow, and you go any town and you go to other, there's a list of pre foreclosures, and when you try to inquire, it just sends you to a broker pretty much.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You familiar with that?
Yeah. The definition of a pre-foreclosure is that it's usually like a 12-month time frame, and it depends on what's going on in the courts. I mean, I've heard Cook County courts are basically shut down, and anything that happens between the time of default and that time frame before it goes to auction or before they foreclose on the seller. So that's a good long time. It's 12 months. And I believe it's 4 months default for it to become a public recorded Liz Pendens. So if it's public information that used to be on the multiple listing service, I thought it was kind of in bad taste to put it there, and it didn't last. It was there for maybe a month or two. And as a licensed real estate broker, when we're going through our MLS, it's like all these listings would come up, and if someone defaulted, it was broadcasting that. And I just think, that's not necessary. And there were some brokers that had done it too. And I don't know. It's one of those things I would rather have permission to broadcast a person's default and try and sell the home. I mean, that's as a broker. Try to sell the home traditionally, not necessarily as a home in distress. So that's probably how I got there.
So what are you saying, that it's public information, and that's what the mortgage company does, is upload it on Zillow?
Yeah, it's semi-public information.
Okay.
So as a broker, I don't think it would be in good form for me to share someone's default. However, if you're looking for that type of thing and you're looking at that address, you would see after the Liz Pendon's notice that it has been recorded and it became public information. So I look at it as semi-public, but yes.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Betsy. This is Sam.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Sam. I'm also a real estate broker for the last 20 years, and I've done about 10 short sale. Sometimes what the banks are doing doesn't make sense. There was a townhome. I gave them a cash offer for 200. They didn't take it, and they said the BPO came at 220, and we are not going to sell it. So they kept the property for 6 months. They paid the tax and association, and then they sold it for 160. So, and I brought it to the attention of the bank manager, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know anything about it." Now I'm dealing with somebody else. It's a commercial property, but the bank own it. I mean, they already foreclosed and they own it. And they just dropping the price, but they don't agree with the cash offer. I mean, I don't know what they think and how they do their business, but it doesn't make sense.
Well, that's thanks for the question, Sam, or thanks for sharing that with us, because that's just another example of, is it crystal clear yet? This is not their money. It's taxpayers.
Yes.
They don't care that much. So if there's somehow a bank that's set up where people are getting incentives or people are getting, I don't know, some kind of downgrade in their position and title for not successfully managing these, but I've really never seen any lender that has an internal system of, punishment reward for handling these in the best way. And, we all know there's better ways to handle, distressed real estate than, and you're always making a choice, but it is shocking the decisions that they make out there. So even as a real estate broker, I get shocked at the decisions some non-distressed homeowners make. It's amazing.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so another shout out to Chicago DealVault. They do have a setup where you can have access to their database and see the source of properties that are in distress, properties that have heavy equity. It's really important, and to go both ways too, and also access to real estate brokers that have the same type of information. And also, since there's so much involved and so many different skills and talents that I think are needed to become a real estate investor who's very successful, considering being around teams and looking at other people you want to work with, because I mean, cooking the food, serving the food, and bringing people to the table, it's not easy. It's already a full day, and people have so much else to do, and it can be a lot. So I would highly recommend looking at yourself and making sure your head is set and all ready to do everything with a great attitude and whatever it takes as an investor, and also to start considering, what do you bring to the table and how can you get yourself on a good team and identify other team players that can divide up labor and conquer.
Betsy, can you hear me?
Yes.
I got a question for you. How do you go about finding a good short sale realtor?
That's a good question. In my experience, I had gone more through investment groups. And if it's a short sale realtor that you would hire as, I mean, certainly, I know Dean is taking short sales and he's working with a team. So he's the one that does negotiation in the process. So I would highly recommend working with Dean. We know him, he knows everybody, and that would probably be the best way to go. And as it is, David commented about Zillow, so maybe take a look there and see if some of those are showing up at the same time, you know, just to get started, to get your feet wet and talking to people.
Yeah, I'm a realtor myself. I want to be the buyer, but you know, I know I can't be both. And you have to go through a realtor in order to put bids in and everything. So I'm just kind of wondering how to find a good one.
Yeah, we.
I mean, I'll tell you they know how to do them, but when I ask them about some of the paperwork, they don't have it. So that tells me they don't do it. You know.
Yeah, and Dean is a real estate broker, is licensed in Illinois and maybe another state, I'm just not sure, but he does the process. And I mean, I would work as a real estate broker in a transaction if that's something of interest. So I'm doing that and also writing a book. But as far as me doing the short sale process, no, I'm not doing that anymore. But there are definitely some people connected with Chicago DealVault. So I can take your name and phone number and get back to you on that once I speak to some other people. Would that work for you? I'll look you up.
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah.
So MIH
ALEK.
ALEK. All right, I'll do that.
So you want my number or no?
Either way, if you want to give it to me over the line, that's great. Or otherwise, I can find you on the MLS.
Oh yeah, I give it to you. Yeah, 630-640-8091.
Okay, great. And the middle number is 610.
630-640-8091.
Okay, got it. All right, we'll reach out.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
Betsy, how long was the longest short sale you had?
Oh my gosh. I don't even remember. There could have been one that went over 2 years and it just ended up getting revived. You know,
I bet you on that one. I had one for 28 months.
oh my
And
gosh.
the owner was living in the house, enjoying without paying the mortgage and paying the tax. And I was negotiating with somebody in India. And in the middle of the night, they were awake to answer my question. And every time we send a document to them, they would lose it or they won't get it. And then we have to start all over and do it again. Was it?
Which lender was it? Was it Bank of America?
Yes, it was Bank of America, yes.
Yeah, that's probably one of the worst. And there were a lot of calls to Mumbai.
Yes, the bigger the bank is, the longer it takes, or the more messy it is.
Yeah, it definitely can be. And if anything, that's a good war story for keeping these owners in the house. Do whatever you can. And if I find out somebody moves out, I was like, oh my gosh, there we go. And if they move out in November, it's just horrible. So you're on, nervous for the next 2 or 3 months and try to get it done as fast as possible. That's another thing I can put the screws to a negotiator too. It's winter's right around the corner here. Are you kidding me? I can't keep this house in good condition. There's no way.
No, I kept them in the house for almost 2.5 years. And 15 days before sheriff's sale, we sold it, we closed it. And it ended up to be good because the cash buyer I had, he said, I want this house and I'll stay until we close it, until we buy it. And they did get it after 2 years and 4 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I have heard of one going out for 9 years, but I think that was interspersing, threats of bankruptcy. So yeah, it's all over the place what could happen sometimes. Rob, you asked nuances approaching a short sale from the seller versus buyer perspective. I guess for the most part, I'm thinking we are talking about the seller's perspective. Yeah, if you care to add more, we can continue that conversation. I'm just not sure because it feels like we're talking about the seller more than buyers. And thanks for get your contact and get back to you on that.
So Betsy,
Yes.
yeah, I'll add to that comment they made. Let's just say I find like David was mentioning earlier about a listing in Zillow, and sometimes they are, I'm going to call it bank approved. In other words, they've already gone through the negotiation process, had the BPO, come up with an offer amount, and now you're on the buyer side thinking maybe it's a little high. Can you nudge both the seller and the seller's agent or representative to go back to the table and negotiate for a better price? Because obviously, to you, you think that that price is not low enough because of the construction that needs to take place.
Yeah, nothing's keeping you from doing that. And I would believe if it's on Zillow, it's probably listed. So as those market days climb, it's something you can kind of monitor and then realize whether they're becoming more motivated. That kind of thing happens.
And is there a special tactic or verbiage you might use to, I'm going to use a blunt statement, educate the seller's representative as to how to negotiate that price down a little lower because they're just going with the first offer from the bank and they think it's sufficient. And sometimes agents think that the highest price is the best price, and then when they hold out for that and they never get it, next thing you know, they're going to the sale and hurting the seller because now they are going to be pursued for the deficiency judgment.
Right. And, most of the people that are on that end of it, and certainly if they've already gone through the process, they're pretty, I'm going to guess, well-versed because they had success in getting that accomplished, that it's now, kind of bank approved. So,
Well,
yeah.
no offense to people who have spoken about long short sales, but if the sale is taking a long time, perhaps sometimes they're not well versed and just think they are because of prior experience, but the prior experience doesn't always equal well versed.
Right. I'm just going by the fact that it's already bank approved because they've been through some kind of process when, to say it's already bank approved. So I think you might run the risk of, insulting them because any licensed broker, it's like, we do know the drill. We know how it works. And I think it would be further ahead if you focused on what you're bringing to the table. What makes you the best buyer? I mean, what are you going to do? You got a cash deal, and that's the kind of thing that they would want to see, or closing early in 30 days. I don't know what else. Maybe, another incentive, and you can get creative to say, I would pay 1% of the real estate commission. I mean, dangling, little sparkly things like that in front of someone, I'm telling you, they lose their minds and they're not even keeping up with the math. And you just offered somebody, $1,000 when you saved yourself 4,000. I mean, it happens. You'd be surprised.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Thank you.
Sure, math mumbo jumbo. A lot of fun. So I'll wait on the line for a couple more minutes in case there's any other comments, questions, complaints, and otherwise, for joining us. Yes.
One more question. do you think that the short sale numbers would be as high as 2008, 2009 this time? I mean, I don't see it going that way. How about you?
It's really hard to predict. I think there seems to be a lot of loose money floating around right now, and I think it's possible that some of these are going to get resolved, and everything's different from 2008. A lot of that I would attribute it to not having the tools in place, the mechanisms that keep mortgages safe. One was the appraisal process. It was a mess. Well, it didn't get any better. It's still a mess. Another is to have homeowners with money in the game. And I think that's somewhat improved, but an LTV with 3%, I'm telling you, that's heading toward foreclosure. I didn't work with clients like that. I mean, maybe people do it, they think it's okay, but I think you're asking for a lot of trouble because, you know, if that's all you've got for the down payment, and maybe you've got a lot more, you know, maybe there's $500,000 sitting in the bank and you just want to do an LTV with 3% down, it makes me think they don't have enough backing to keep the place maintained. And that is really what turns, you know, a good home into a short sale or a distressed property. So these conditions are very, very different from '08, and it's just hard to compare that. So yeah, I don't think I have any predictions whether this is going to be as large. It's probably not going to be as intense or everything happening at the same time, because that was like heavy hitting for 2 or 3 years. And we've got other issues, you know, like inflation heading this way. And as far as, you know, prices right now, they're insane crazy. And that's all over the nation. You know, 99% of the counties throughout the United States are having very heavy active seller markets. So it's all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, the banks are getting a little smarter this time. I have 3 friends, they are 8 months behind on their mortgage.
Wow.
So two of the banks agreed to put that amount in the back of their loan, so they don't go to foreclosure, they don't go to short sale, and they start paying their normal payment. So
That's really good to know.
yeah, I mean, a lot. If your mortgage is not owned by investor, they will put it in back of your loan, and you start your life again with your normal payment.
When you say not owned by an investor, are you talking about a GSE, or are you
Yes.
talking about it's a home, you know, like it's a mortgage home to that bank, a GSE?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's really rare, and if banks are doing that, that would be really, really great, I think, for the economy and for everybody, because otherwise the other option is the forbearance, and that's absurd because those go into a higher payment. It's like, oh, you didn't make the $1,200 payment? Well, we could do a forbearance. Your new payment is going to be $1,800.
Yes.
That doesn't solve the problem, and they know it. It don't even drags things out. You're gonna miss the first payment on that. But I love it if they could put it at the back of the loan. Great.
Yeah, my other friend that the bank didn't accept that. I mean, the payment to go in back of the loan. Now he's paying about 4,200 every month for 12 months to catch up with that late payment.
Oh, wow.
Yes, the scary situation. Yes, I mean, going to foreclosure and short sale, the banks, they know that it costs a lot of money for the bank, a lot of damage, I mean, as soon as they leave the building will be, I mean, with less value on it. So now they do whatever they can just to keep the homeowner in the house.
Yeah, I mean, so far things seem a little calm. There's a lot of activity, and maybe that's probably why. And we basically have a housing shortage. So I think it's good.
We have to wait until next year to see what happens.
Yeah, it's a good environment right now, I think, to be investing in real estate. Really good.
It is. Thanks,
Well,
Betsy.
you're very welcome. I enjoyed it, and thanks for participating, Sam. Well, if no one has anything else, I am going to say thank you, Chicago Deal Vault. You're making a big difference for a lot of people. And
Betsy,
yeah,
hi.
hi.
This is Marlon. I just have a question. Maybe it might sound silly. What's the difference between a short sale and a foreclosure?
A foreclosure is it's
Or is it
over. It means it's over. It went to auction.
right?
The bank's foreclosing on them. So it's more like a time frame thing than anything. A short sale is you're going to the bank and you're trying to shortchange them. You know that movie, The Wolf of
Okay.
Wall Street and The Big Short? Those are really good movies to watch.
The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, and The Big Short.
I didn't see that one, but I saw the Wolf of Wall Street. Okay, I
Yeah,
got it. I kind of see what you're talking about with
yeah, you see
the short
crazy.
sale.
Yeah, you see crazy short sales. Like 10% on the dollar, and it's all over the place. Another good movie, if you're interested in real estate. Oh, and I would love to have that conversation about commercial property that one of the callers they were referring to. It might have been Sam, but when you own commercial real estate, I mean, I like it as an investment. I had a building that was
Mm-hmm.
16% annual. It was amazing. But if you default, that building is going to be taken back in 30 days. You don't get two defaults, you get one. So
Wow.
yeah, it's a whole different ballgame. So I would love to do short sales with commercial properties, right? But how can you do it? I got to get in there in 30 days and get it done. I've tried it on numerous occasions, and it was because I knew
Mm-hmm.
property owners, and they came to me and they said they were in trouble with their loan. One of them, they had 50,000 a month coming in income on that building. So I thought, oh, this is going to be, easy. And then the lender said, nah, I don't think so. We're not playing. And they did a wraparound mortgage, which is a total mistake. Never do that. And there were 22 addresses, so none of those properties could be pulled off to sell one and then pay the debt back. And they were just backed into a corner. And I tried the best I could. If that isn't enough, that bank, I checked them 2 months later on the FDIC watch list. So the bank got
Oh,
closed.
wow.
Yeah, and he wouldn't even play with
So,
us. Wow.
you mentioned something about a wraparound mortgage. What is that?
It's not something you want to do. So say you've got 4 or 5 properties, and it's common for a developer. I think they get in and they get back out, and the interest rate's going to be much higher than any other mortgage loans. So if you have 4 or 5 properties and then you put the loan onto all of those addresses, say it's a $5 million loan, and that means you can't start taking a piece of that puzzle away to sell one in case you want to, do something else with it. If you're in default, they'll take the whole parcel. This one example was properties valued at probably $20 million, and they had a $5 million mortgage, and they lost it because it was a wraparound. If it wasn't a wraparound, I sold something to get them back in good faith with the bank and make a payment. There was no chance. And so the
So
bank got,
wraparound mortgage. So a wraparound mortgage is definitely a no-no.
yeah, I mean, like I said, developers might do it. I don't even know if I'm using
Mm-hmm.
the right term. It was yeah, it was a wraparound. So developer might do it because you do see a house, it's probably an $800,000 house, and there's a, $6 million loan on it. They just do that. And like I said, do it if you can get in and get back out, get out of the loan. Same thing with,
Okay.
oh God.
So do you also do other things? Do you wholesale? You mentioned something about commercial and stuff like that, but do you do any type of wholesale or anything like wholesaling or anything like that, or pretty much just short sales?
Wholesale definitely would be my next interest. I'm holding some properties that I do have, and I really want to wholesale and just do light fix-ups and get back out. And that is what originally attracted me to Chicago DealVault. So I'm planning to begin that several months from now. So yeah, all that makes sense, and I think this is a really good environment to do it. But me personally, I've got a couple of other things on my plate till November. So that's what I'm watching different markets, different areas. I know what areas I would target, and they're going to be great. They really are. And I don't usually buy in the city. I'll buy in the city if I can cut it loose again. But as far as rentals, I would rather be in suburban areas.
Okay. Because I'm about to get started into wholesaling. I was just wondering, is there any type of, maybe I can take some type of class or some type of tutorial? 'Cause I'm really seriously, actually really want to get into the wholesaling business, so to speak. I'm just trying to learn it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would think I'm writing a book and it's about basic real estate investing, and it'll come out later. It's just not published yet, but I think people learn by doing, and you don't want to make it expensive to learn by doing. So then you want to be around others who are up and running, and decide for yourself what you're bringing to the table. And when you have value and you can bring that to another group and say, hey, I've got my days free and I can go hunt this, hunt that, and I go talk to these people about this, about that, and try and lock down some of these properties that we could consider buying, in the next, week or so. So that's probably where I would start. As far as any other kind of formal education, I know Chicago DealVault is doing that all the time, and they certainly have an open house. I'm not sure how often. I know they just did one, I think, in July, and that's a good place to do that too. Maybe a 2-day seminar they have. But yeah, I think teamwork is really good, and there's so much to learn about. You're vetting the team and them vetting you too. So that's the kind of thing that becomes important. Make sure your head's together and what you value, and get very clear about what you're doing and what your intention is, and don't go back.
Quick question,
All
Betsy.
right. That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah,
Welcome.
I just want to pick your brain. You're saying you know the areas to invest in. Do you mind sharing?
That would bring a lot of competition to my neighborhoods. Uh, what else? I will tell you this, with Chicago DealVault, when these guys are doing, I really think they've cracked the code. I mean, I've been at this a long time, and to rate a neighborhood based on, I can't remember what the score was. Realtors say it's a walking score, and with DealVault, it was a neighborhood score. That's very important. So I'd say that's number one. So pick a neighborhood that is going to make that neighborhood score where no one's killing anyone. It's safe to walk like to your car, no combat zones, and price range and bedrooms. I don't even have any patience for a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom house. They should have never been built, and it's got to be 3 bedrooms. 4 is getting to be too many. Even in this climate, got less and less people that are willing to buy a 4-bedroom and a 5-bedroom. Our lives are changing. So, the 3 bedrooms are hot. And if it's not, too expensive, I wouldn't want to do big systems. And it's great the way Hugo explains those systems too, because that's how we think of things. Windows is a system, plumbing is a system, electric is a system, and you got to decide how much you can take on. So there's tons of neighborhoods that are going to hit that price range, thinking 100 to 200, and depending on what you want to do with the house, if you want to flip it or do the fix up and then flip, or if you want to rent it out. So either of those options would work on that type of property. So there's a lot going on, and like I said, I typically avoid city. So You know, happiness is those price ranges, 3 bedrooms and outskirts, and even to go way far south, you know, in these rural areas. I know some people that they're doing a lot of investing and they're doing a lot of damage and they don't have much competition. So I'd be all over it.
Okay. All right. Um,
Okay.
all right.
Hey, hi. You know what? I came in kind of late on the conversation, and I'm sorry, but so the Chicago Deal Vault. There's a lot of motorcycles going by right now. Sorry about that. But the Chicago Deal Vault, do they like list like distressed properties? Do they have like distressed properties in there that you can search for?
Yeah, I think they can find them because they've got the database. And I believe I was on a seminar and they could see how much equity. Now we have MLS to tell how much equity a property has. That's my thing. I like to see a house with a little tiny mortgage, and you know, then I can relist it and sell it pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, if you catch some of Hugo's future webinars regarding learning the process for investing and you know, buying homes to rent or to sell again, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you'll learn a lot. One of those
Okay.
webinars.
Okay, I will. I will. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Back.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your question, and thank you as well for the very great presentation today, Betsy. And I'm sure our attendees gained a lot of insights from this topic. And of course, thank you for answering all those questions as well. You've been awesome, and it's a great help to us with our Chicago DealVault family. So yeah, I'm sorry Hugo was not able to join today, but I promise to be the best, to be of assistance the best way I can. So if you have questions for the rest of the attendees, feel free to send us an email to support@chicagodealvault.com, or you can also reach out to Betsy with the phone number that she provided, so that we'll be able to address all your concerns.
All right, thanks for the fun. Have
Thank
a
you,
great.
Betsy. You have a great night with you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Betsy.
Good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yes, for everyone who had questions, I believe it was Marlon who had a question about wholesaling. I would like to invite you to join our meeting, Cash Flow Inner Circle and Wholesale Inner Circle meeting this coming Sunday at 1 p.m. Hugo will be hosting the meeting. So it's an exclusive meeting only for the inner circle members. Please send us an email to support@chicagodealvault.com so that we'll be able to send you the invitation and the link to attend the meeting. It's a paid meeting, but if you're not a member of the inner circle group yet, we will allow you to attend one free meeting so that you would know how it works, and you would be able to understand about um, you would be able to understand about yes, you would be able to understand about um, how Hugo and the rest of the team members are doing about the meeting. So also there are questions about Chicago DealVault. So Chicago DealVault also provides you with leads such as MLS properties, off-market properties that we categorize into probate, pre-foreclosure, upcoming auctions, bank-owned, vacant properties, eviction, and the rest of what you can see here. So if you want to avail 30-day free trial access, feel free to sign up with the link we provided in the chat. And also you don't have to worry because you will be given one free training on how to use the system. It's 30 days free for you, and you have the option to also cancel before the 30th day if you wish to not continue with getting billed after 30 days. So you will learn a lot of items from getting access to the software. Again, I would like to invite you to attend to the meeting this coming Sunday for all Inner Circle members, as well as for those who are not yet members of the Wholesale Inner Circle team or CashFlow Inner Circle team. Feel free to send us an email to support@chicagodealvault.com so we send you the link. Yes, I'm going to stay on the line for at least 2 more minutes if you have questions or if you would like to attend the meeting this coming Sunday. So again, Betsy, thank you for your time and for your assistance today. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone.
You're welcome. Bye, Phil. Take care.
You too. Thank you.